Hi, True Crew. How you doing? Welcome back to another episode. If you're new, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the website. Get your free download, Setting Goals, Fitness, and Nutrition. Follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. The podcast is out there. So let's get into it. I just finished my first triathlon Olympic distance this past Sunday, which was what is it today? The 25th. So the 23rd, right? And now on the 5th, which is 2 weeks away, I'm doing a half Ironman. So this was kind of the warm-up. It was the very first time I'd ever gotten in open water. First time I'd ever, actually participated. So this is just my recap, my experience of my first triathlon, Olympic distance, right? So we did it here in Boulder. I'm from Colorado. So we did it here in Boulder Reservoir. And I think it went pretty well. I mean, I won. My boss, who I did it with, he's done 4 or 5 Ironmen in the past, probably some Olympic distances and things like this. But I actually beat him, so that was good, right? Because he's actually done full Ironmen. Whenever him and I actually bike together here up towards Boulder, he stomps me by like 10, 15, 20 minutes every time. So I beat him. That was good. I'm sure he wasn't too happy about it. He was happy for me. He didn't say anything. He was happy for me when I was passing him on the run. He was really happy for me, telling me to finish strong. So he encouraged me in that way. But for him, it might have been a little jab. I don't know. But everything went well. So first time in open water. It did kind of suck because I ended up. Well, let me give you my results first. So for those of you who don't know the Olympic distance, the swim is 1,500 meters, the bike is 26.4, and then the run is 10.6. I had to look that up. This is my little race slip you can print off at the end. So my total time was 3 hours, 13 minutes, 37 seconds. I placed 180th out of 283. So at least I didn't finish last, right? That is what it is. Whatever the percentage is, I tried looking it up. It came up when I divided 180 by 283. My math isn't great these days. It was 65. So, sex place 121. I don't know how many men there were versus women. Age group 19th. And I think in my age group there's probably only like 23 people. So in that sense, I did really horribly. So my swim was 35 minutes, 38 seconds. This is what I would say was probably the most difficult, I think. And then just the mental game within myself. And the mental game really played a part in this. Because the downfall was, it was in the morning, right? So we were swimming east and right off the bat, and then we were coming around, and then we were swimming back west. They had the buoy, so it kind of went like this. This would be the course. It was like a rectangle without the bottom, right? So we started here, we went up, over and down, and I was supposed to swim with the boss, but right when I got in, I think I was just overwhelmed with not being able to see, just being in the water the first time. You're getting kicked by people, hit by people. Our strategy was to go in towards the end of our heat that was going out, so we did, but I lost them right away. My goggles were fogging instantly. They did have the practice run where I swam one practice one. Literally, when your head's in the water, you don't see anything. Like, once my hand's extended, I could probably see this far in front of me. So at the beginning, swimming was fine. The downfall was, like I said, it's a rectangle, right? So it's like this with the rectangle. And by the time I got to that turnaround point, I was over here at this buoy. So my boss was like, stay, further to the left. Just keep looking right. Look for the buoys. I kept seeing buoys. A few times where I couldn't, I would even stop. But since the sun was there, I'd look up, and I still couldn't see anything. So I'm like floating in the water, trying to see things. Couldn't. By the time I was about to that turnaround point, that's when someone came up to me and they're like, dude, you got to go all the way back around. So that top area of that turnaround right here, I probably had to backtrack 20 yards and then go back. So I swam as hard as I could to get around it. By the time I got back around, then I was out of breath, kind of panicking. I thought, I was thinking to myself, this is stupid. I'm going to fail at the Ironman. The half Ironman, I'm not going to be able to do it. This is horrible. And then, I think the next heat, or maybe people I was in front of came by me, and they gave me the motivation. At that point, up until that point, I was swimming perfectly. I was still swimming. Nothing stopped me from swimming, but besides a few times I tried to stop to see things because I couldn't see through my goggles. So at that point, I was like this for about 30 seconds, just like, this is stupid. Maybe I should just float and try to get my head together. And then like this group of like 6, 7, 8 dudes came burning past me, and I was like, nah, just try to keep with them. Just try to keep with them. Just try to keep with them. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So of course they were still pulling away from me, but at least now I had that barrier. And then going back west, now I could at least look up and see the arch. So I never had to look anymore to see what was going on for the cones, the floaty cones out there, the pillar things, the buoys. So that gave me, better, even though I still felt like, am I even moving? That was the biggest and most difficult thing about it. It was thinking to myself, like, am I moving? At least I can see the pool line, or I have a time where I can turn around. So in reality, to me, it just seemed like I wasn't doing anything. But the 1,500 meters in reality, in the pool, I think my fastest when I looked at my watch afterwards, because I track everything on this, was like 28 minutes. So in reality, with open water, I only lost 7 minutes. And a majority, if you think about it, probably 2 minutes of it was trying to backtrack back around, and then just panicking. So in reality, I wasn't off really that much on my swim. And in reality, when I got out, my lady was sitting there with the video, and I asked her where the boss was, Gabe, and she said he like literally got out 1 minute before you. So in reality, I would have probably beat him on the swim. Right? So we get out. She runs over to where my bike is. I'm chatting with her. I'm kind of frustrated with what had happened in the swim. So I'm sitting there talking to her while I'm getting my wetsuit off. Boss is already off on the bike. I get on the bike, and here I only actually got off the bike after a swim once onto my real bike versus getting onto a spin bike. So I know what my boss says now when he says, yeah, getting out of the pool to a swim bike is a completely different game. Because I don't know if it was, because getting out of the pool onto a spin bike, I always felt great. I never had any problems. But this time we get on the bike, we start going up. It didn't seem like they were big hills. Maybe they were. And I had my watch, so I was able to track my time. And it seemed like probably the first 10, 15 minutes, I could barely get like 11 miles an hour, maybe 12. So that first hole going from south to north until we went east, I felt horrible. I was just like, this sucks, man. At this rate, I'm not going to hit my time. Because usually we go to Boulder and back, a lot of big hills on it. And it's about 25 miles there and back. So that's about what we've been training for. Besides when I go there and back twice to get up to that 50, 56 mile range. And I was like, man, this is going to take forever. Once again, that mental game comes in. This is going to suck. I'm going to be out here for double the time that I normally am if I'm only going 10 miles an hour, 11, 12. People just passing you. So once again, it's demoralizing. You're in your own head a majority of the time. And then I hit that road going east, and I just kept pedaling, and I always look at my watch, man, and I was like 23, 24, 25 miles an hour that entire time. I was just hauling. Yeah, there's still people passing me, but for me, I know staying at that 25 mile an hour pace, I've never stood at it besides like on a downhill, and this was just kind of rolling. So for that one, I felt really good. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Like even people passing me, like my mental state was like off the charts because I knew I was kicking butt for my standards. So then I take that corner. Next thing I know, I'm still pedaling. I know the boss is in front of me. I'm assuming I'm not going to catch him because, he beats me by 15 minutes every time we do a 26-mile bike ride. And next thing you know, like I see a brown shirt, and I didn't know what he was wearing. Come up to him, and it was him. I was like, what's going on, man? You going to let me pass you or what? What's going on? And he's like, oh, I just feel like crap. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, man, well, I'm off. So I go, finish my bike ride, get down. My lady's there again. She's pretty excited that I beat the boss in. So next thing you know, I'm sitting there talking to her while putting my shoes on and changing. And I was like, oh, look, there's Gabe. So I start running. Gabe's getting off. He's all, dang, I thought you were going to freaking already be running. But at this time, like once I passed him on the bike, I knew it was over. Because if he beats me by 15, 20 minutes on the bike, the only way I knew I could catch him was on the run, and I knew if we were running, I was in the clear. Because whenever him and I run, I usually run with him. I can keep a good pace with him, and then I just stop whenever he stops. So I always knew when we were running, I only stopped because the boss stopped, right? Because my friend stopped. So I always knew I could run further. So if anything, I knew it would be a dead heat. If I could catch him on the run, then it was going to be a dead heat to who could sprint last, who could sprint it out. And I ended up winning. So during the run, I felt really good. The downfall was whenever a water station came, like whenever I drank water, I just instantly felt nauseous during the run with the water. Like on the bike, sipping on my drink never really bothered me, but when it came to that, I was really nauseous and life just sucked, to tell you the truth, whenever I caught water. But I know I needed it. I needed to stay hydrated, so I kept drinking. So yeah, I'm happy. I at least beat the boss. I'm sure when it comes to the Ironman, it's not the half Ironman. It's going to be a totally different story, but not bad. I felt good. The swim was the worst. It wouldn't have been bad if I wouldn't have had to backtrack. I would have actually felt pretty good about the swim. It definitely was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think I was going to have that much of an issue with not being able to see as I did. But in reality, I think the biggest problem was that sun glaring on me. And if it's your first time, the one thing the boss always told me is try to find a bearing point, because we were swimming at a lake or a reservoir. So on the other side, there's a dam and there's, things to look at. So in reality, he said, you want to find something don't worry about those cones, find something way out there that you can keep on, that you can keep looking at. Because if you're turning and looking, every stroke, you're going to end up seeing the buoy because they had the last one marked green. So as long as you're going orange, that's fine. Oh, there's the green one, time to make my turn. So that's the thing I need to remember. And then one thing, I forgot to set my watch, but at least you could print this out. I put my watch in halfway, like a mile into the bike. I was like, oh, I need to set my watch. And then I did for the run as well. So it was 3:13:37. And then my transition times was 5:56, so 6 minutes, and then 3:11. So in reality, my almost 10 minutes in transition. So first place was 2:11, so he beat me by an hour. So my biggest problem is mainly the bike. I think I need to cut that down in the run, but I felt really good. I was pleased with it. 2 weeks we got the half Ironman, so you'll be getting an update on that. And that's it. I wish it told me how many men there were, but if there's 283, I would assume about half and half. I don't know. I did. It was good though. Wasn't too bad. I enjoyed it. Once again, it's also just that mental game, I think, is the big thing. Because in reality, even though I panicked out there and I had to backtrack, I was only 5-6 minutes behind my normal pool swim. So, I think I just need to make sure I can sight properly. And every time I sighted, though, I tried it in the pool, but when I tried to sight out there, I was just slurping down water. It was horrific. But other than that, it was good. We'll see how it goes for this upcoming half Ironman. It's going to be definitely more challenging. So, there you go. There's my my first triathlon Olympic distance experience. I hope it motivates you, maybe gives you some ideas on what to do. Once again, it is mainly that mental game, man. That's what it is. But like I said, that last straightaway on the bike ride gave me hope. Kind of kept me pumped. And then when I passed the boss, it kept me pumped. And then the run, it was like, just do your thing. Running's easy. Just do your thing. I already know what I can do. So there you go, True Crew. Hopefully it motivates you. Once again, I do videos on spirituality, Christianity, Catholicism, health and fitness. I'm a personal trainer, so I'm doing that as well. Now that I'm getting into this triathlon stuff, I'm getting better at that. So I'll probably, I've been making I got a whole vlog series on leading up to this half Ironman, week 1 through 16. So check that out. And now that I know a little bit more on the training protocols that my buddy had given me, I'll probably try and create my own program this time instead of following his. But we'll see how it goes, right? So once again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. The podcast is out there. Subscribe to this channel, share and like these videos.